Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege to have you joining me here today, as you guys join me here every day. And tomorrow, Star Wars is tomorrow. I'm gonna go see the Star Wars The Last Jedi premiere tomorrow. I'm so freaking stoked. One more sleep, as a bunch of you guys have been reminding me in the chat board. John, one more sleep, one more sleep. Yes, absolutely, just one more sleep. I am so freaking stoked. It is absolutely unbelievable how excited that I am. All right, guys, gonna give you a rundown on how today's show is gonna go. Starting off, we're going to go to 5 major topics today that you guys have emailed into me. Now, how do you email in a topic or a question for the John Campea Show? It's really quite simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put that word topic in the subject line, or else I'm not going to see your email. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less, or else I wouldn't even be able to fit them on the screen. Now, after we get through that major part of the show, we'll go to the second half of the show, which is taking your live questions. And there's 2 ways to get live questions on. Number 1, the only guaranteed way to get your question or comment on is use the super chat in the live stream. And then if we have time after that, I'm going to go to Twitter and take some of your guys' tweets as well. I'll put up the Twitter information for that in just a little bit. Now, before we get into the first story of the day, I want to address something. This just came up, and I want to address it because some people are talking about it. I mean, I've got like 80,000 followers on Twitter, which is tiny compared to a lot of people, but I've got like 80,000 followers on Twitter, and I've only had 3 people tweet to me about this, but still, it should be addressed at this point. So I'm going to say this. You guys will notice that in the, I'll just bring it up right here, right now. In the thumbnail for the show, we've got that image there of Rey with the lightsaber. And I've had a few people, and I want to address this, because if you guys bring this up, it's worth addressing. So, because I want to address any concerns there are. I've had a couple of people, and again, it represents 0.001% of the people who follow me. But still, some people have brought up, say, John, why are you putting a spoiler in your thumbnail? This is my philosophy. This has always been my philosophy. This image, for those of you who may not know this, maybe some of you didn't know this, this was actually taken from one of the official commercial spots for Star Wars The Force Awakens. And we're going to be talking about this picture here in just a little bit, but I just want to address this whole issue of what is a spoiler, what isn't a spoiler, just really quick off the top. You see, to me, and so I got into a bit of a discussion with some people, and somebody said, well, you know, there are some people who don't want to know what's in the TV commercials. I get that, but here's my response to that. If you're somebody, if you're a sports fan, and you're a football fan, and you don't want to know what the score of last night's football game is, that's cool that you don't want to know that. But the game has happened. It's public knowledge now. If you don't want to know what the score of that game is, you can't expect ESPN to not tweet about it or to not headline it saying, Giants win big over the Philadelphia Eagles. You can't expect them not to do that. If you don't want to know what the score of last night's game is, once it's public knowledge, then that's on you to make sure you're not watching SportsCenter later that night. Like, if you don't want to know what the score of last night's game is, don't watch SportsCenter or don't follow ESPN. Now, let's say I was a big fan of, say, Walking Dead. If I don't want to know what happened on Walking Dead last night, now, again, it's aired, it's now public knowledge. If I don't want to know what happened on Walking Dead last night, because I'm going to watch it later today or tomorrow, whatever, then that's on me to avoid Twitter until I have a chance to watch it. Like, to me, once something is public knowledge, and you guys have seen me talk about this a lot, once something is made public knowledge, it's not spoiler anymore. If a movie puts it in the trailer, it's not spoiler. They've made it public knowledge. If they put it in a TV commercial, it's not a spoiler anymore. It's public knowledge. Now, some people might say to me, but John, I mean, shouldn't you be sensitive to those few people who don't want to know? Well, I'm a movie news guy. That is my thing. I talk about movie news. And once movie news gets put out and made public knowledge, I got to be able to talk about it and talk about it in Twitter, put it in my thumbnails, whatever. And it's just like the score of last night's game. If you don't want to know what the score of last night's game is, that's totally cool. But then that's on you to make sure you take steps to avoid finding out what that is. Once something's public knowledge to me, we got to be able to talk about it. Now, I never tweet out spoilers or things like that. But again, to me, if something is made public knowledge and everybody is free to know about it, then the onus, the burden, if you will, of avoiding that public knowledge falls on you, not on everybody else to not talk about it. So that's my feelings about it, because I, in a way, on a very tiny microcosm level, I've always kind of thought of myself as ESPN for movie news. You wouldn't expect ESPN not to talk about last night's score. If you don't want to know about it, you avoid it. You can't expect me to not openly talk about movie news that's been made public knowledge. So anyway, that's just my point on that. I'm sure a lot of you guys have different points of view and different opinions on that. So open the dialogue. Let's have a debate and discussion, and we'll be good to go from there. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the first topic today. And the first official topic today comes to us from Sandeep. And Sandeep writes, great fan from India. Well, thank you so much, Sandeep. You are a great fan from India. Your show gets me through college. Oh, that's good to know, man. As the year comes to a close, what would you say should be Hollywood's biggest lesson learned from 2017? More female directors, case in point, Wonder Woman, Lady Bird, Battle of the Sexes, or a better use of marketing in films, case in point, Blade Runner 2049, Justice League, War for the Planet of the Apes, or some other lessons entirely? Yeah, you bring up, Sandeep, a couple of great issues, a couple of fabulous issues. What are the big lessons? I would agree with you. Number one, that, hey, guess what, guys? You don't need to exclude women from being directors of films. Women can direct films and direct some awesome films. The only reason the DCEU has one critically and audience-loved film in Wonder Woman is because they got the great Patty Jenkins to direct it. And you pointed out a couple of other great movies. So it's going to be good to see. I think one of the lessons Hollywood is learning is that you can give these opportunities to female directors and watch what they do with them. So that's great. The second one that you bring up, I also totally agree with. Be smarter in your marketing. Like, again, you've heard me criticize. I think one of the, not the only reason, absolutely not the only reason, but one of the big reasons that Blade Runner 2049, I think, tanked at the box office is because they just thought, just put Blade Runner on the title and everybody will come running. Don't bother telling the audience what the movie's about. I mean, you've heard me complain about that the marketing for Blade Runner 2049, they never even hinted to the audience about what the movie was actually about. How can you expect people to get excited to come out to your movie if you're not even going to tell them what the movie's about? So that was big there. Justice League also suffered from that a little bit, I think. Then you get a movie like this one, War for the Planet of the Apes, where it was just flat out deceptive marketing. War for the Planet of the Apes is one of the worst examples of deceptive marketing I've seen in a long time. For instance, every poster either had Caesar on a horse with that little girl. That never happens in the movie, although that's a small thing. But if you watch the trailers for War for the Planet of Apes, you think this whole movie's about an army of apes fighting the army of humanity. And you see the big billboards. You got an army of apes here, an army of humanity. That has nothing to do with the movie. Nothing to do with the movie, which is a shame because it's a good movie. But I remember going, this was a bait and switch job. Their marketing campaign for War for the Planet of the Apes was a bait and switch job. And I hope they learn something from there. The other lesson I hope they learn is spend less money on making your movies. Because we've seen some movies that would have theoretically done okay had they not been so expensive, but ended up being money losers for the studios because they spent so much. And I hope that becomes one of the lessons as well. And maybe there are more lessons to learn as well. Jump into the comment section, leave me your thoughts. What are some of the lessons you think Hollywood should learn from 2017 and how the movie industry has gone? Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Jessica Montgomery. And Jessica Montgomery writes, this year is packed with amazing lead actress performances. Absolutely it is. If you had to pick right now between Margot Robbie in Tonya, Emma Stone in Battle of the Sexes, Frances McDormand in 3 Billboards, Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water, Jessica Chastain in Molly's Game, or Meryl Streep in The Post, who would you give the award to? Listen, Jessica, you have no idea. It is so packed. The Best Actress category this year is so ridiculously packed with some absolutely unbelievable performances. Because I'm going to tell you right now, all these women probably could win an Academy Award on any given year. But this year, they all have to go up against each other and only one can win. I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't seen The Post yet. I'm hearing amazing things about Meryl Streep in it, absolutely. I also had to skip my screening of Molly's Game. And I love me some Jessica Chastain. So I haven't seen that yet. But all the other ones you were mentioning, Hawkins, McDormand, Emma Stone, something like Battle of Sexes. If I had to pick one right now, and I might change my mind later, I think, damn, it's tight. I think I would edge it out not including Jessica Chastain and Meryl Streep, because again, I haven't seen those two yet. I think I'd give it to Emma Stone, actually. Her portrayal of Billie Jean King in Battle of the Sexes, and I really liked Battle of the Sexes. Battle of the Sexes is not going to be my top 5 films of the year, but I really liked that film, and one of the big reasons was Emma Stone showed that her winning the Academy Award for La La Land was no fluke. That was no fluke. She is a powerhouse in Battle of the Sexes. She's so good. But then again, I just saw The Shape of Water last night. Watch for my review a little bit later today. I just saw Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water. Sally Hawkins is amazing at that. I also saw I, Tonya last night. Again, I'll put my review up for that a little bit later today for I, Tonya. Margot Robbie, best performance of her career. She's going to get nominated for Best Actress. It is a stacked category this year. This might be the most stacked category of all the categories at the Academy Awards this year. It might absolutely be the most stacked. It is an incredible field. And that I just couldn't be more thrilled with. And I still haven't seen Meryl Streep in The Post or Jessica Chastain in Molly's Game. So lots of good stuff to come. Thanks a lot for the question, man. All right, let's move on now to the next question. The aforementioned one we were talking about. Okay, this one comes to us from Patreon supporter William Sigary, who writes, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, William. Watching in England every night, I follow the official Star Wars page on Instagram, and they have posted a clip counting down to the days to The Last Jedi, 8 days to go. And at the end of it, it shows Rey force-grabbing Kylo Ren's lightsaber. This is the first time I've seen this clip. Just wondered if you've seen it and your thoughts." Yes, obviously I've seen it. A lot of people have seen it. They've also put it in one of their commercials. It's there. This is, I think, a great example of Star Wars and Lucasfilm doing a little bit of misdirection with their trailers. No. Now, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen in the movie. I think that would be deceptive. I think this is misdirect. I do think this actually happens in the movie, but the context of which it happens, they're not giving anything away. For all we know, this is happening in a Force vision scene that she has, or a dream sequence, or something along those lines. I mean, we just don't know. Now, what it looks like on its surface is we see the Royal Praetorian Guard there. We see her in what kind of looks like a version of the Emperor's throne room from the Death Star. So we look at this picture thinking, okay, she's in that room with Snoke, because we see she's in a room with Snoke in some of the other trailers. She's in that room and she gets Kylo's lightsaber. Okay, that's what it looks like on the surface. But if you guys have been watching me, you guys know, I think there's a lot of stuff in these Star Wars trailers and in these Star Wars commercials that are designed to give an appearance of something in one context, but in the actual movie, it's going to be in a totally different context and have a totally different meaning. It is a pretty badass picture. I mean, when I first saw that image, I thought, okay, that's a pretty badass image. Rey holding that saber is pretty great. Although, she's got to be careful, because if you're not used to handling a lightsaber with those two little force pikes coming out on the side, you could lose a couple of fingers really fast. Jedi safety tips with John Campea. That's my next podcast. So, she's going to have to be careful, but I'm not... Look, bottom line is, I think the image looks amazing. I will find out tomorrow what kind of context this is in. I'm getting the feeling like a lot of the other stuff that we've seen in this Star Wars ad campaign is that there's a little bit of misdirection going on. Again, I totally believe this scene is in the movie, but the context of which this scene is in the movie could be up for debate. And I'm just excited to find out. But it is a badass looking image, and it's pretty exciting to see. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Connor. And Connor writes, "Hey, John, great show. Thank you so much. I listened on my walk to work every day." Oh, that's good to know. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. "My question is about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom trailer. I found my excitement skyrocket yesterday. What are your thoughts on the renewed focus on animatronics in the film? It has me pumped beyond belief." Well, okay, let's start with a couple things. First of all, this renewed focus on animatronics. I don't read too much into that, because it's like J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens saying, we're relying more on practical effects. And while they did have a lot of practical effects in The Force Awakens, that movie is still one of the biggest digital visual effects movies of all time. I mean, so yes, there is more practical. They have some additional emphasis on practical animatronics and effects, and that's true. They're not lying about that. But don't be mistaken. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is going to be a CGI fest. Because you watched that trailer, 90% of what you saw was CGI, right? So it's good that they're trying to put more use of animatronics into place, because I believe animatronics and practical effects will always have a place in the movie business. Because sometimes it's just the smarter choice to use a practical effect as opposed to a digital effect. I think that will always be the case. But this is Jurassic World. I mean, it's going to have a hell of a lot of CGI. Don't confuse yourself about that. As far as the trailer goes, I'm going to admit, I wasn't all that taken with it. I thought it was okay. But the one thing they did in the trailer, we want to talk about spoilers and trailers or things like that. The one thing they did in the trailer that I thought may have been a mistake was this scene right here. Because I don't know what the name of the dinosaur is, but there's that one dinosaur, Chris Pratt standing there, and it's got that dinosaur, and it looks like it's about to get Chris Pratt, and then the T-Rex comes in like it does in other Jurassic World movies and kills that dinosaur and saves him. And I thought, well, that's a cliffhanger moment you just put in the trailer. That's a cliffhanger moment. Like you just did this big reveal where it shows he gets, cornered by this dinosaur, and it would have been cool to show that in the trailer, because now you're wondering going into the movie, how does Chris Pratt get out of this? But then they show you how Chris Pratt gets out of that. So I think that was a questionable decision to put that in the trailer. I mean, it's in the trailer now, so it's public knowledge, we can talk about it. But I do think that was questionable. Like, why put that in the trailer? It's a cool scene, but it would have still been a cool scene. Just have Chris Pratt come out, and that big dinosaur's there, and it's a cliffhanger moment. Now you can't wait to see the movie to see, how does Chris Pratt get out of this? Oh, they show us how he gets out of it. The T-Rex comes in, because that moment in the first Jurassic Park, when the velociraptors are closing in on the kitties, and then the T-Rex comes in, and that's a big, huge reveal. So, I don't know. I think it was a questionable decision to put that in. But the trailer overall to me was, okay, they got to go back to the island because apparently the island's going to blow up. And the entire trailer to me just felt like everybody's running from the island blowing up. And that was the whole trailer. I mean, at least the trailer tells us what the movie's about, right? They got to go back to the island. They're going to try to rescue some of the dinosaurs that are still there because something geologically is going terribly wrong with the island and the island's going to blow up. Okay, good. We know what the movie's about. Perfect. But then it felt to me like just the entire movie was everybody run from the exploding mountain, everybody run. And that just felt like the whole trailer to me. So I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, maybe I had some unrealistic expectations going into watching this trailer. That's possible. I'm not really sure. Look, I'm still looking forward to the movie. I'm very excited about it. I'm more excited to see what their next trailer is going to look like. See if they put a little bit more flesh on these bones. No pun intended. And we'll see how that all turns out. But anyway, that's my thought on the Jurassic World trailer. What did you guys think about the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdoms trailer? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, final email question today, and this is the big one. This is the big doozy. There's a lot for us to cover here. Buckle up. Here we go. The final email question today comes to us from Patreon supporter Dion Shepard, who writes, "Hey, John. I'm wondering, what do you think about the confirmation that WB is indeed shaking up the DCEU? Between its starting in January to the end, to the DEA of further integrating DC's film operations to the studio's main movie arm. That would entail putting the divisions under the same roof rather than having DC remain in a separate building on the lot. What are your thoughts on this?" Okay, this is huge. This, of course, got broke yesterday in Variety magazine, or Variety is the one who broke this. And basically, it's this. DC is doing a massive shakeup of things that there's already massive things Variety is reporting, and they're saying more stuff is going to come and it's going to be announced in January. So we are seeing a massive shakeup, and the Variety report says it really all stems from the failure of Justice League. That Warner Brothers and their parent company, Time Warner, are taking the failure of Justice League incredibly seriously. They know how important it is, and they're doing some major shakeups. And the story came out of, just really kind of came out of nowhere. Now, I think we all knew that even before the Variety story, that DC was going to have some kind of reorganization. Something has to happen over there. You know me, I think it has to have an all-out reboot. I think they need to reboot this thing. But it's looking less and less likely like that's going to be the case. But I still feel that's what they should do. At any rate, there were, to me in that article, 5 major things we learned in that article that are really significant tectonic shifts in what's going on with Warner Brothers as far as DC goes. The first thing that we learned is that basically the head of DC Films, DC Film co-president, co-chairman John Berg is out. He is no longer going to be heading up these movies. The article writes, John Berg will be leaving his current job running the comic book films production division, according to several sources with knowledge of the studio's plans. A search is underway for his replacement. Berg will instead become a production partner with Roy Lee, the producer of Lego Movie and It, who has a deal on the lot. Now, it then goes on to have the head of the studio, I think it was Emmerich, talking about, oh yeah, John Berg, he's been wanting for a long time to just go and produce. I don't buy that for a second. I believe that's PR spin. So big shift number 1, the head of DC's movie division is out. Now, what about the guy who is considered the point person for the DC film position, for the DC films, Geoff Johns? Well, apparently Geoff Johns, as far as the movies go, he's getting a demotion. This is what it says in the article. Warner is expected to name a new person to run point on DC's films. Geoff Johns, who has partnered with Berg on much of the creative direction of the movies, is expected to continue serving as DC Entertainment's chief creative officer going forward. His work on the films may evolve, and he could be more of just advisory in nature. So, Geoff Johns, so we see John Berg is out. Geoff Johns, the point person on the films, apparently he's being redirected just back to the television area and the comics, and he's going to be more having an advisory nature with the movies, which, to be honest with you, is what I always thought Geoff Johns should be doing with the DC Cinematic Universe. I always thought he should be in an advisory committee, because remember, Geoff Johns has never really truly been a serious movie guy. He's a comics guy, and that's why I like having him as an advisor. I think is great. Having him there to advise on the films is great. I never thought it was the right decision to kind of make him the main point person for DC films, because comics and movies are 2 different things. So that's another big shift. The third big thing happening that we learned in this thing is that DC Films is to become less independent. The article says, these people also say that Emmerich is wearing the idea of further integrating DC's film operations into the studio's main movie arm. That would entail putting the division under the same roof rather than having DC remain in a separate building on the lot, sources say. Marvel, which is owned by Disney, does operate its comic book film division autonomously, but other studios such as Fox and Sony produce their superhero films under the studio banner. To me, I think this is probably a good thing. Now, it's not always a good thing. Marvel does it one way, and we've seen them have success. Fox does it another way, and we've seen them have success do it the other way. What is clear to me, and what I think has become clear to a lot of you guys as well, is that the communication between the DC movie division and the Warner Brother head executives has been a broken, befuddled mess. We've seen that both in the Wrap article that came out a week or 2 ago, that there has been a complete communication breakdown. There's a complete mess going on. The leadership of Warner Brothers itself is infighting as it pertains to which direction should our movies even go, which direction should our individual films go, let alone our entire DC Cinematic Universe. I have a feeling that to calm down that chaos, bring it back under the main movie arm, that's the way Fox does it, and they're having some success with that, and try to bring at least some order to that. I think in this case, this might be the right thing for them to do. Now, maybe later, if a DC movie universe becomes more healthy and more successful, then you can probably look at separating it out into its own division again. But for now, with all the chaos running rampant, it seems like, in my opinion at any rate, that bringing it more back under the main Warner Brothers arm would probably be a good thing for them right now. That's just my thought. But maybe you guys have different opinions on that. I'm sure you do. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, the fourth major thing coming out of this article in Variety. The Warner Brothers owners didn't want Zack Snyder. Remember, Time Warner owns Warner Brothers. So Time Warner is said to be frustrated that Warner Brothers leaders continued to bring the director, that's Zack Snyder, continued to bring the director back, especially after Batman vs. Superman was excoriated by critics, even though it made money. They are also upset that each new DC film seems to be making less than its predecessor, Wonder Woman, of course, being the exception there. So once again, we're seeing more examples of complete discord and like disarray in Warner Brothers leadership. We already knew that several senior Warner Brothers leaders did not want Zack Snyder back. A couple of them did. They won out. But now we're finding out that Warner Brothers owners, Time Warner, they did not want Zack Snyder back. So we're finding out more about this behind-the-scenes chaos, no unified vision, no unified direction. Warner Brothers is a house divided. They've got to get this stuff back under control if they're going to do anything. Because again, I don't always just want to be comparing DC to Marvel, but this is a valid comparison. When you look at the Marvel situation, they have complete unity in vision. They have a singular focus of direction. And that probably is one of the big factors about why they're successful. Warner Brothers, their behind-the-scenes stuff is absolute chaos. And they've got to get this stuff fixed up and figured out. All right, and one of the last things that came out in that thing is something that we've already known, but Ben Affleck is done as Batman. The article quotes, while Ben Affleck is expected to appear as Batman in a standalone Flash movie, it is highly unlikely he will don the cape and cowl in Matt Reeves' planned standalone Batman movie. The director is said to want to cast a role with fresh talent, according to sources went on for that. He said, gosh, if only somebody had told us like almost a year ago that it was 50-50 that Ben Affleck might do one more film, but then he's done there. If only somebody had told us that. Anyway, so yet more confirmation that everything is... Look, everybody now knows. Nobody's denying Ben Affleck is leaving DC anymore. No one's denying it anymore. Everybody realizes, they see the writing on the wall. I still think it's a 50-50 chance that he does that Flashpoint movie. Again, remember, we've said this from the beginning. Ben has one more film he's contractually obligated to do. Whether or not Warner Brothers makes him do it or not is up for debate, but maybe they will use Flashpoint to be Ben's final hurrah, and then he's done. And then I would love for them to reboot the DC Cinematic Universe with Matt Reeves as Batman. It's a perfect opportunity. But whatever, it doesn't look like that's what they're going to do. So we've got the chairman and president of the DC Film Division is out. Geoff Johns, who is the point person for the DC films, is being demoted to just an advisory role. Warner Brothers is going to bring the DC division more under the main Warner Brothers arm. What was some of the other things there that I forgot? Oh yeah, much less independent. We've seen the fact that there's been more chaos amongst the Warner Brothers leadership. This whole thing is a clusterfuck. It's a clusterfuck, and they need to get this back into order and direction, because fans of DC deserve a healthy, thriving leadership and healthy, thriving film cinematic universe, and they're not getting it. They're getting divisive films, and what now? Gee, I wonder why DC films have been divisive. Oh, maybe because Warner Brothers leadership has been divisive over it in the first place. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. I still think the best way to fix it is just pull the damn plug on the thing and get moving with the business of rebooting this thing. Come on. But, you know, more and more it doesn't look like they're going to do that. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, I want to hear what your thoughts are. Jump into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, it's that time of the show now to move on to your live questions. Now, before I get to those live questions, though, it is time of the show for me to do my 1-minute commercial break of my admittedly shameless plug for my Patreon campaign, which is, of course, the only thing that keeps the lights on around here. So, here, check out this shameless plug for 1 minute, and we'll be right back. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now let's get back. Sound. Okay, I wonder how long I've been without any sound. Don't worry, guys. I recorded this. It is coming back. Here's a question. What is the name of that Jim Carrey movie? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's it. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Okay, so that's the main thing there. So that's definitely one of them. But I think, honestly, his favorite thing, or his best thing, I should say, is the I Love You, Philip Morris thing. I think that's probably the best one he's done. Next one comes to us from Josh Hollingsworth, who writes, "Hey, John, big fan. What do you think of the theory on Kylo Ren being Luke's son? Kylo Ren being Luke's son and Han and Leia just adopted him for Luke." No, I don't believe that. Never know. But I don't think, look, I think, no, that can't be the case, because they talk in the novel Bloodline about, I believe they talk in Bloodlines, the novel, which is canon, about Leia's pregnancy. I think they talk about that in there, which leads that theory to go right out the window. So I mean, unless I'm missing something, and it's always possible that I'm missing something, but unless I'm missing something, I don't think that has anything to do with it. All right, James Court writes, "Why no Chewie/R2D2 subtitles? Would love to learn Wookiee." Well, I think at this point you can't. The charm, it's become a charm of both R2 and Chewbacca to not know what it is they're saying, but try to guess what it is they're saying by how they're acting. That's become a staple in Star Wars. To me, at any rate, that's become a staple in Star Wars. And it's something that they won't change, nor is it something that I think they should change. I think they should keep it exactly the way it is. If there's something they're saying that the audience needs to know, then, you know, Luke will be there to translate. "Yes, R2, I'll be careful." Like, so Luke will say what it is that R2 is saying, or 3PO will say, you know, "Don't talk back to me, you malfunctioning little twerp," or whatever. That if they say something that the audience needs to know, then they'll have somebody there to translate it out. But I love the fact that they don't do the little subtitles with them. I think that's great. Okay, next one comes to us from, where did it go? Oh, Maximus1041 says, "John, what's your most anticipated movie for 2018? I think that would probably, obviously, be Avengers. Probably Avengers is my... I'm looking more forward to Avengers than I am to Han Solo. And I'm very much looking forward to Han Solo. Don't get me wrong. Of course I am. But I think I'm more looking forward now. Star Wars Episode 9, if Star Wars Episode 9 was coming out in 2018, I would be more looking forward to Star Wars Episode 9. But between Avengers Infinity War and Han Solo, I'm going to give the nod to Infinity War. Matt Gilly-Met writes, will you have to do a meet and greet in Toronto? I'm planning on doing a Star Wars marathon on the day of The Last Jedi, 20 hours. Any advice for me on doing marathons? Thanks, been watching since 2014. Well, thanks so much, Matt. I'm not planning on doing any meet and greets in Toronto or Ontario when I go back. I'm only there for about 8 or 9 days, and I really do want to spend my time. I only get to see my family like once a year. So, I've got a huge Italian family up in Hamilton. So I'm planning on spending most of my time that I'm there with my family. So I won't have time to do it. But I've been thinking about coming up to Toronto during mid-year, something like that, and doing like a Toronto or Hamilton area, you know, John Campea meet and greet. If there are enough people there who'd be interested in that, it's something I'd be looking forward to. As far as tips about doing a marathon, take a break between each movie. Have a meal. Go for a walk. Keep yourself, you know, hydrated. Those are my best tips for doing a marathon of those films. All right, next one comes to us from Kamikaze Cobra 718, who writes, "We in the camp zone grab Grace Randolph by the PUC Mix Cinema Reviewers. Great again. Ready for Star Wars Black Panther." Hey, look, what happened between me and Grace Randolph? Is in the past. There's no point in bringing that up. It's in the past. I said what I had to say about it. Nobody else. She hasn't made any other moves since then. Neither have I. There seems to be what's it called? A ceasefire called. So I think it's just fine. I encourage everybody I know who gives Grace a hard time, leave Grace alone. Let her do her thing. She's doing her thing. She's happy doing her thing. I'm doing my thing. No need to bother anybody with it. Let's see. Alex Brown writes, Any chance we will get a Defenders cameo or Easter egg of some kind in Infinity War? Nope. You're not going to see anything. I've been telling you guys that forever. Marvel is not interested in crossing their Netflix stuff over with their MCU stuff. They're not. You're not going to see Daredevil. You're not going to see Punisher. You're not going to see the Defenders. You're not going to see Jessica Jones. You're not going to see Luke Cage. You're not going to see Iron Fist. They're not going to be in Infinity War. Now watch. They're going to be in Infinity War. But I'm pretty positive they're not going to be in there. But, I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But I believe if you gave me the over-under of 3%, I'll take the under on 3%. If you gave me the over-under at 0.5, I'll take the over on 0.5. But if the over-under line for the Netflix hero showing up in Infinity War is 3%, I'll take the under on that. By a mile, I'll take the under on that. Okay, this next one comes to us from Braz Drake, who writes, could giving Ben Affleck back full reign of directing either Batman or Justice League bring back the fans? Well, I mean, I know I would be on board, but Ben does not want to go back, and I don't think Warner Brothers wants him back. Again, I think there's been a lot of drama that's gone on between those two parties. I don't think it's going to happen. But, I mean, hell, don't get me wrong. And I love Matt Reeves, and I'm excited to see what Matt Reeves does with Batman. But if you give me a choice of seeing a Ben Affleck-directed Batman or a Matt Reeves-directed Batman, I'm taking the Ben Affleck-directed Batman 8 days a week. I mean, absolutely. And I love Matt Reeves, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. But I will take the Ben Affleck Batman every day. Let's see. Jake C. Worst movie ending. Oh. M. Night has a couple of bad endings. M. Night has done a couple one. What was that one? The Village? Is that the one where they all live in the... That was a bad ending because I saw that twist coming from a mile away. That was a bad ending. I would have to think about it. That's one of those questions I would actually have to sit down and think about for a while. It's a difficult one for me to come off at the top of my head, but The Village is certainly a bad one. Let's move on. Manuel Fernandez writes in, a lot of people are panicking about how the Disney/Fox deal's terrible for the industry and will hurt it since Fox is one of the largest studios and competition will be reduced and Disney will become a monopoly. Should we panic? No, I don't think it's good. I'm not happy about it. I like Fox Studios doing their thing. I'm not happy about it. But will it create a monopoly? Will it create a horrible situation? I don't think so because there's still enough competition. Universal is still out there. They are a major player. Sony is still out there. Paramount is still out there. Lionsgate is still out there. You got these emerging companies like A24 or Annapurna Pictures. There's still a lot of competition out there. So Warner Brothers is still out there. So there's still plenty of competition out there. So I wouldn't worry about it becoming a monopoly or anything like that. I am going to miss Fox doing their things, especially the things they're doing with, R-rated X-Men Universe stuff, with Logan, with Deadpool, with New Mutants. I just kind of like what they're doing, but I wouldn't worry about it becoming a monopoly. Still far too much competition, in my opinion, at any rate. All right, next one comes to us from Amin Meisheiki, who writes, what will you do tomorrow if you find out the spoiler you have known actually doesn't happen and the person who told you was lying just to mess with you? I might actually be kind of excited. I might actually be kind of happy because that would be a true surprise. No, everything I have seen and heard points towards the spoiler that I know about The Force Awakens, or The Last Jedi, I should say, is actually going to happen. So, but if it's not, I'll actually be pretty excited. And I'll be the first one to tell you. I'll come back and say, guys, the spoiler I had heard didn't even happen in the movie. But it's happening. It is happening in the movie. But I'll tell you if it doesn't, for sure. Let's see. Farhad Dubois writes, separate Super Chat show, like Ask Me Anything? No, I don't think so. I think I really do like having the live part of the show be for Super Chat because it's a way to guarantee people who really want to make sure their comment or question, whatever is put on the show comes on, and it gives me a way of being supported as well. So it's kind of a win-win, although there are a lot of Super Chats coming in. Maybe I'll have to come up with some kind of option in the near future. We still got another 10 minutes here. We'll get through all these. Thanks a lot for the comment, though, Farhad. All right. Briggs6262 writes, is it conceivable that Disney/Lucasfilm would do a villain-centric movie such as Darth Bane or stick with books and comics to tell those stories? Yeah, I don't think... Look, the notion of a villain-centric film is very, very difficult to do. We've never really seen a true villain-centric film. Like, every movie that's come out and says, we're going to watch the bad guys. No, they're really the heroes. They just have a dark side to them. Even like a Suicide Squad wasn't about the bad guys. They were all acting heroically and showing honor and all that kind of stuff. They've never really done a movie because it's tricky to do so to get the audience on board. Because if you can't connect and cheer for the hero, it becomes really, really difficult. So there are very, very, very minuscule examples of something like that happening and working. So I don't think I'd see Lucasfilm doing that. I don't think they'd be interested in that. Could be wrong, but that's just what my thought is right now. Let's see. I Got a Name writes in, as a child of the 70s, Christmas was Star Wars. December release dates brought back that excitement. Enjoy your opening your presents tomorrow. I mean, there are a lot of people who think of Star Wars and they think of Christmas time. I still think of May. I love the fact that Han Solo is opening in May, although I'll tell you this. I heard a whisper that they might actually bump Han Solo off of his existing date. I haven't heard that it's likely. I haven't heard that it is happening. That's not what I heard. No. I just heard that there are some discussions going on about that, but it's most likely going to keep its date. But it'll be interesting to see. Let's see. Manuel Fernandez writes, do you think Annapurna, A24, Blumhouse, and other similar studios will become big enough to rival the major studios in, say, 10 to 20 years down the line at their current rate of success? I don't think Blumhouse wants to become a big studio. I think Blumhouse and some of these studios, they're making money hand over fist doing just what they're doing. Let those other guys make their $300 million movies. Blumhouse is making a killing doing their small little stories and movies and having people love them and like them. I think that's exactly where they want to be. Now, I've had Jason Blum in my studio before, and I sat down with him for about like an hour and a half. And he really digs being that indie kind of a feel, being in that position that he's in. So I don't think those studios even want to become the next Warner Brothers. I think they're making money hand over fist. I think they're having tons of success. And I think they're filling a niche where there's plenty of big studios, Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, Disney, Lionsgate. There's tons of big studios. I think they're finding a really great and really profitable space where they are. So I don't even think they'd want to become that big. That's just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Let's see. The next one comes to us from Derek Risner, who writes, hey, John, been loving your content. Thank you so much, Derek. Did you hear about Zachary Levi dissing EA for Star Wars Battlefront at the Game Awards last night? Makings of a real superhero. I did not hear about that. Now, you guys have been following me. You know I've got some opinions about Battlefront 2 and the way EA has conducted themselves and the way they're trying to structure their games. And the fact that I didn't even like Star Wars Battlefront 1 all that much. So now, as soon as I'm done this show, I'm going to rush onto YouTube and see if I can find that. Do me a favor, guys, in the chat board. If you guys know the clip that he's talking about, throw that up in the chat board. I'd love to hear what it is he's talking about. All right. Let's see. Next one comes to us from RagnarFreak95, who writes, oops, where did RagnarFreak95 go? Once again, guys, I got to ask you not to send in any more super chats. Please do not send any more super chats. I asked that like 20 minutes ago. Let's see. Ragnar Freak writes, I know you like video game cinematics like The Last of Us, Injustice, but what do you think about Uncharted? And are you looking forward to the movie? Oh, if it actually happens, yes. They keep saying it's happening. They keep announcing all these things are moving in motion. I am very much looking forward to that myself. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be great. So yes, I'm absolutely looking forward to that. Let's see. Next one comes to us from CJ Carpenter, who just put in a super chat. Thank you, CJ. Mobius writes in, will you be doing a lengthier spoiler review of The Last Jedi? Yes, I will be doing a spoiler review of The Last Jedi, but not until after the movie opens. Once the movie opens, I will do a full spoiler review and full spoiler discussion. I'll probably do it live so you guys can interact with me too. I'll do a full spoiler review of it after the movie opens and you guys have had a chance to see the movie. But I will put up my review once I see the movie tomorrow. So watch my non-spoiler review, I should say, once you see the movie tomorrow. Chris KG125 writes, can't wait for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. True hero of Jurassic Park says the T-Rex keep up the awesome work. Well, we got to see the T-Rex be a hero again in the new trailer, didn't we? All right. Next one comes to us from Rob Turner. John, Silver Age Justice League? I don't think so. I mean, it's an interesting concept, but right now they're having a hard time just getting their mainline stuff even going and getting grounded and working right. So I don't think we can see that anytime soon. At least I don't think so off the top of my head. It's an interesting thought though, Rob. Let's see. Manuel Fernandez, favorite Stanley Kubrick film. For me, it's 2001 or The Shining. It's 2001 for me. 2001 for me is still, I still watch that movie and go, I like how this came out of somebody's mind is amazing. And you know what? It's crazy. I know there are a lot of people who still not watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. Treat yourself. Watch 2001. That to me is my favorite Kubrick movie of all time. Easily. Even far more than The Shining even. Robert Gleason is writing Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek trilogy, The Klingon Wars, all new ships and crew thoughts. Hey, look, I mentioned on the video we did the other day about the Quentin Tarantino Star Trek thing, and it looks like it's going to be rated R. I mentioned, hey, what if it's like an all Klingon thing? Or maybe it was somebody in the chat board who mentioned, I can't remember now, but it's like, what if it's an all Klingon? What if it's a movie telling it from the Klingons' point of view and the heroes of the Klingon Empire and the villains of the Klingon Empire and all that kind of stuff? What if they do something totally different? What if it's not the Starship Enterprise? What if it's something else? There's a lot of possibilities here right now that I'm open to. I think the smart money is still on them doing the existing cast with the Enterprise, all that kind of stuff, but I think the possibilities are really broad. I think there's a lot of things they could do with this. So let's keep our eyes open. Lycon Zero writes, why did you show us that pic? Okay, over it now. Well, I talked a little bit about at the beginning of the show why I showed the pic and why I believe it's totally justified to show that pic. Check out the beginning of the video to see that for sure. John Kari writes, sound is... I'm guessing for a while there was no sound. So a whole bunch of you guys are putting in that there was no sound. And a whole bunch of you guys, I appreciate that you guys let me know that there was a technical issue, there was no sound, but the sound is back, the sound is here. Let's see, and I will just take a couple of more here, and I will start off with, where do we start here? I guess I'm going to start on Bomb Squad. So Bomb Squad writes, as the video goes out as well, this is just a thing of chaos and disaster. Don't worry, the video's coming back. Bomb Squad writes, if the Fox deal works, chances of chances of Hugh Jackman end credit scene in Infinity War, how shocked and excited would you be in that happen? No, I don't think that can happen. I don't think that will happen because it's just too much. Like, there's just too much to do. Infinity War is already shot. It's already done. The movie's finished. They're shooting Avengers 4 right now. And this deal isn't even done. And I would hate to see them rush something together and just so they can squeeze in some after credit scene. So I don't want to see that myself personally. Let's see. Yusuka503 writes, John, you're my favorite film fan on YouTube. And you deserve all the good things in your life. Hope you have the best time at The Last Jedi tomorrow. Thank you so much, Yusuka. I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I can't wait to share some pictures with you guys. I will be doing that on social media a lot. I will share pictures and all that kind of crap. Keep an eye on that. Ben Raynor's writing, thoughts on the movie The Truman Show. I love The Truman Show. Truman Show is great. I mean, it wasn't totally original because there was a Matthew McConaughey movie, I believe. Was it Matthew McConaughey that had a movie that had a premise very similar to that came out before that? But The Truman Show was the far superior movie. It was great. It introduced a lot of people to a different side of Jim Carrey. I think that they didn't really know before that. I love The Truman Show. Christy 1929 is writing, did Anne pick a dress? Not yet. I'm hoping we can take some pictures tonight, and I'm going to put pictures up on my social media and let you guys give Anne your opinion as to which dress she should be wearing to The Last Jedi tomorrow. So keep your eye open for that. Let's see. Bex EXP writes, hey John, greetings from Switzerland. Oh, thank you for writing for Switzerland. Love your show. What do you think about the big budget movies? For example, a movie costs like $250 million, and that's the reason some of the movies flopped, to be spoiled and such. Yeah, I mean, look, I've been saying for a long time that one of the big changes the movie industry needs to make is lowering the amount of money they spend on making these movies. I absolutely believe that's one of the things they absolutely have to do. And that is the reason, like, there are some movies that made, hey, look, if Justice League had cost $120 million to make, it would be pretty profitable right now. Even though it hasn't even made $600 million yet, it would still be profitable. It would be profitable already if they spent $120 million on it. But instead, they spend almost $300 million on it. And part of that is because of the reshoots, and that wasn't really what they were planning on. But yes, I completely believe studios need to spend less money. Last couple of ones here. Aussie Nerd says, I love your love for Star Wars, even if I don't share it. Which would you like remade? Prequels, despecialized original Blu-ray, an Oscar-winning Star Wars movie? I don't want anything remade. I mean, I don't want anything. Look, I'm open. I always defend remakes and reboots. I say there's nothing wrong with remakes and reboots. Some of the best films of all time have been reboots and remakes. They have. Then people will always come back to me, well, John, you wouldn't say that if they were talking about rebooting Star Wars. Yeah, I would. Because my philosophy is this. If you reboot or remake Star Wars and it sucks, okay, I still have the original. I still win. And if you reboot and remake Star Wars and it's good, great, now I got 2 great Star Wars movies. Awesome. It is a no-lose situation for me. Make a reboot and it's bad, I still win because I still have the original. Make a reboot and it's good, great, now I've got another good film I can enjoy. It's a win-win for me as a fan. Total win-win. So I'm good with any of that kind of stuff. Oliver Manhuin writes, what about Kevin Tsujihara on changes in WBDC? Well, look, there was that very damning accusation in that report in the Wrap that had a Warner Brothers insider claiming that the reason Kevin Tsujihara did not let them push Justice League into 2018 was because he wanted to get his bonus check for 2017. If that turns out to be true, and again, we don't know that that's true, it's a big if, huge if, okay? All I'm saying is, if Warner Brothers looks into that, and they find out that's the truth, and they found out that Kevin Tsujihara purposefully and deliberately sabotaged their own movie and undermined their own movie when it could have been better for them and their studio and their Justice League movie if they had pushed it off 4 or 5 months into 2018, if they discover that Kevin Tsujihara, the CEO of Warner Brothers, purposefully undermined them, then he got to go. He's got to go. And maybe there should be criminal charges, but he's got to go if that's the case. But again, we don't know if that's the case. So look, they're removing the DC Films co-president and co-chair and John Berg. They're shaking things up there. They're doing a lot of upper leadership changes. Let's see how that works out. Let's see. Dopand Beats writes, in the future, what Star Wars novel would be best to adapt into a future Star Wars movie? None. Leave the novels with the novels and let the movies be the movies is the way I kind of feel about that. Look, back in the day, I always wanted a Thrawn trilogy movie series, but obviously canon has gone in a different direction. So that's not really part of their thing anymore. So they're not worried about that. So really, to me, the answer to that would be none right now. All right. And final question of the day comes to us from Nikunj Dixit, who writes, hey, John, you mentioned that you aren't a fan of the DC animated films, but have you seen films like The Mask of the Phantasm, Return of the Joker, Under the Red Hood, The Dark Knight Rises Part 1 and 2? Those are awesome. No, I've always said there are a couple of them that are exceptions, right? Mask of the Phantasm is a very good one. The Dark Knight Returns, that's just a shot-for-shot remake of the comic book, so whatever. But I really do enjoy that one. And I really like Under the Red Hood. Return of the Joker I did not like. And a lot of their other stuff, their smaller level stuff, like a lot of their Justice League stuff, I think is just crap and garbage. They don't even try to make those good, to be honest. They just whip them together and put them out, so a bunch of the, pardon me, kiddies will watch them and whatever. I'm also not a big fan of the Marvel animated stuff, to be honest with you. I think the only Marvel animated thing, like straight to home video kind of movie that I think has been any good was their Doctor Strange one. I think their Doctor Strange one was pretty good. But other than that, I'm not a fan of the Marvel ones either. So I'm not a fan of either the Marvel or the DC ones for the most part. There are exceptions. The Doctor Strange, Under the Red Hood. I mean, there are a couple of exceptions. But just for the most part, I generally don't like that stuff. And Cruella Entertainment just put in a super chat for the sake of putting in a super chat. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today. My apologies once again for any technical difficulties with the audio. Sometimes the stuff cuts out. Thank you guys for making me aware of that. Yeah, so huge stuff to talk about, huge stuff to look at, huge stuff to really ponder and think about. I mean, the DC shakeup, Jurassic World, the Star Wars stuff, like everything is so big and in flux and everything. And I'm glad that you guys are fellow film fans with me, coming along with me on the way. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We've already got 100,000 subscribers, but there's room for a whole bunch more. Make sure you subscribe today. Click the thumbs up button. Leave your thoughts on any or all the topics we discussed here today in the comments section below. That'll do it for me for today, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.